We will call the Monday, January 22nd board meeting to order. We'll first start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Consent agenda. We have two items. Approval of the minutes of the May 18, 2026 board meeting, as well as statements of receipt and expenditures for May of 26. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
First and second, any additional discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes. Superintendent's report.
Yes, I've asked Mr. Moore to come up and share some of the highlights for the Grafton High School spring sports season.
Good evening. Always a pleasure to share all the wonderful things our student athletes are doing in the spring. Very much followed the theme of athletic excellence as it did in winter and fall. First in track and field, the boys 800 relay team of Seva Bill-Lusif, Max Glab, DJ James, and Hunter Klippel won the state title, our first track and field state title since 2014. Girls 1600 meter relay team of Abby Bartholomew, Melanie Morgan, Emily Sewell, Kelly Tagliapietra took second place at state, set a school record in the process. And the girls 3200 meter relay team of Abby Bartholomew, Kelly Faust, Emily Sewell, and Kelly Tagliapietra took third place overall. Other athletes who participated in the state meet were the boys 400 meter relay team of Seva Bill-Lusif, Max Glab, Vin Ho, Hunter Klippel, Kelly Faust in the 1600 and 3200 meters, Sam Heary in the shot put, and Seva Bill-Lusif in the 100 meters. And then we also learned recently that our boys 4x1 and our girls 4x4, their times were good enough to qualify for NFHS All-American recognition, which was wonderful. In tennis, Michael Pan qualified for the state tournament for the third consecutive year, and Michael's just a junior, so he'll have another go-around as a senior. It's fantastic for Michael. Baseball team finished in a four-way tie for the North Shore Conference Championship. All conference honorees included Jack Schmansky, who was first team, Everett Bonk, Ryan Butts, and Zach Clear, who were all second team honorees. Girls soccer team had a wonderful season when they won the regional championship. All conference went to Bradley Sumner and Caitlin Valenta on the first team, Ava Dotson on the second team, and Mila Dotson, Olivia Ruff, and June Whelan were honorable mention. Boys golf took second place in the regional meet, qualified for sectionals. Golf being one of those rare sports that you need to qualify for sectionals. Jake Lydell was named first team all-conference. And then softball all-conference honorees included Grace Savara, who was first team, Ava Ernest, who was second team, and Kaya King and Lucy Wilkie, who were honorable mention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Also want to thank the Grafton Education Foundation for supporting our educational programs by awarding teachers with nearly $55,000 in grants this year. Funding is being provided for the following: multimedia systems at Kennedy, kindergarten math supplies, art display boards, and reading program supplies at Woodview, an acoustic piano at John Long, and graphing calculators, science lab tools, commercial refrigerator freezer, a laser engraver, and robotics rooms updates at the high school. Since 2011, GEF has awarded 145 grants for a grand total of $724,488. Sent me some information. Their online auction was a success. They made over $25,000, which will go directly back to grants. So they wanted to thank everyone that participated by donating or bidding on items. Unfortunately, the color blast was rained out the last day of school. It has been rescheduled for August 27th at 6 p.m. With over 500 registered this year, they believe it's bound to be a blast. Thanks to our local businesses, Stillery, Wild and Precious, Black Birch, Sahala, Ember Social, and Searzant, who still get a give back on the night that the color blast was rained out. So appreciate the businesses' support that they had. And then today was our official Grafton Summer Learning Academy kickoff today. We're proud to expand some of our academic classes, since in addition to our foundational learning classes from previous years, we've introduced grade level learning boosts. These sessions are specifically designed to give students an extra boost in reading, writing, and math, helping recommended students enter next school year feeling more confident and prepared. In addition to our academic classes, we have a variety of enrichment opportunities with new classes like beginning keyboarding, where they are learning the piano, intro to Spanish, and cross-country warm-up, as well as returning enrichment favorites, including Crafty Kids, Kickball, Strength and Speed, and Escape Rooms. Registration is still open for our standalone classes in August, including Blackhawk Kickstart and Welcome to 5th Grade. To register, you can complete the Google form listed on our summer school website. I've read the update from GEF. Are there any other educational funding partners here? And I do not see any, so that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for Jeff on the superintendent's report? Okay, thank you. Public comment, would you like to address the board? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to item C, recommendations for board action for the June 8th policy committee meeting. Mr. Taylor.
Yes, so June 8th, 2 weeks ago, the policy committee met specifically to review 9 policies related to Act 89. We had some discussions, or a lot of discussions around the impacts of Act 89 on different employee groups, including volunteers and board members. Healthy discussion. So tonight is a first read of these policies, so I would encourage you to be familiar with them, but Superintendent Nelson is going to expand a little bit on what Act 89 is and the impacts it has on us.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kaler. So we're preparing for the implementation of Act 89, which is a state law basically focusing on established anti-grooming protections and professional boundary requirements in K-12 education. So by September 1st, all districts have to adopt a policy regulating communication between students and school employees or volunteers. Notably, the statutory language specifies that these regulations apply to staff when acting in the individual's official capacity. So we had a lot of discussion at that at the policy committee meeting. We had a lot of discussion with that at our leadership team meeting after meeting with Neola, because it's a crucial distinction for many of our staff members who hold that dual role as both a district employee and also as a parent. And board members had that same discussion during the policy committee. So to ensure that full compliance, streamlined oversight, and a secure environment, we are transitioning to Parent Square. Rick has been the lead for that, so I've asked him to come up and talk a little about what that entails and share that with the board.
Hopefully I left the mic on. With Parent Square is a software that's a communication platform, and it is really designed specifically for school districts. It's been around for about 15 years. It's a very mature platform and works quite well, so it's not like we're getting something that nobody else uses. In fact, it's probably the #1 software used for communications for schools around the country. In fact, when I was at the Skyward Conference, I went to some events and talked with some of the key people from Parent Square and was asking some questions about how they integrate well with Skyward. Many of the other districts in southeast Wisconsin also use it too. And even though the law doesn't necessarily say that we have to go out and buy software, it's an excellent opportunity for us to use the kind of the spirit of this law to make sure that not only we train not only our teachers, but coaches and volunteers or anybody who works in extracurricular roles with students, that we have a common platform that they're all trained on. Because in many districts, the coaches will use just another program or a texting platform. And the way Parent Square works is that the students' personal information is never really viewed by the coaches. The students will sign up and their first name and last name will be there, but there's no sharing of phone numbers and those types of things. It works great in Skyward. We already have it plugged in and ready to go. Been working with Kevin Moore and getting some of the summer athletics teams in there ready, and we're going to be meeting the end of July at the coaches training and training the coaches for the fall in using Parent Square.
We wanted to update the board and the community. Any questions for Rick about Parent Square?
So we're going to go along with that in the start of the school year. And then obviously some of the summer programs are utilizing that. And this is a Skyward tool that goes to it, or is it like linked onto a phone or mobile app type of thing?
Yeah, it would go as, and when a coach sends a message, it will actually go to the text number and an email. It's kind of a unified communications platform. And then it has, even though it's not necessarily a designed app, there is an app that if parents load on a mobile device, it'll have like a log file or a history of the communication coming from that coach.
And then this would satisfy the record-keeping requirements that are involved with 89 for this, that's managed by the district?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Great, thanks for finding that.
How would we train the parents?
So there's a launch kit that we're going to be sending out, and registration is going to be a huge push of having a flyer there, communication, emails going out. And really, the way we're going to use this, we're going to kind of soft launch it, of making sure our athletic teams, because when this is fully functional, this could actually be used by classroom teachers too, and we can move to that in year 2. But for parents, it's really going to be coming from the activities and coaches, but we'll have a lot of the information available at registration.
And district emails are still acceptable to use, correct?
Yes, yes.
Good, thanks for your work on that. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Do you have anything else with that?
Nope, that's all I have.
Okay, so yeah, so it's September 1. I
Yep.
mean, that's why it's coming now, and we had the meeting 2 weeks ago to make sure we are abiding by that law come September 1. So tonight is just a first read of the 9 policies that were in the packet, so be familiar with those, and next month we will do a second read and an approval.
Any comments or questions? No voting on that tonight. Okay, great. Item D.
So, yeah, so last month, in May, we had a few policies that we did a first read of, and now they're coming back for a second read and approval. The first one was a new policy, Policy 6608, Accountability and Oversight of Fundraiser and Crowdfunding Disbursements. So we need a motion and a second for approval of that new policy.
Second.
First, second. Any additional discussion or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that passes.
Likewise, we had some replacement policies, update 35.1, policy 5514, use of personal transportation devices, policy 7540.02, digital content and accessibility, policy 7540.08, artificial intelligence. So those 3 policies are back for a second read and approval this evening.
Any comments or questions on those policies? Can we take them all together, or would you? Yeah. All right. So we would look for a motion for the 3 policies, 5514, 7540.02, and 7540.08.
So moved.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that passes. So thank you very much for the work of the policy committee and for meeting to get that ahead for this meeting. Item E, personnel report.
Yes, we have some hires and resignations that we'd ask for board approval for, as well as some information-only pieces. A new hire of Mara Talavak, a 5th grade teacher at John Long Middle School, and then effective 6/10 was Joe Birch, art teacher at Woodview Elementary School, Molly Brocktrup, 2nd grade teacher at Woodview Elementary School, and Jack Lillyquist, math teacher at John Long Middle School. And then effective 6/30/26, Damon James, associate principal at John Long Middle School. Damon came 10 years ago. We actually sat on the same bus on the tour of Grafton before we used air-conditioned buses, and we were talking about how hot it was on the bus as we were trying to figure out what was around Grafton. And so he's been here for 10 years. He's moved on to take the Director of People Services job in the Wauwatosa School District. So we wish Damon the best. He has done a great job with us as a teacher, as a coach, as a department chair, as a dean of students, as an AP, as our summer school principal. He led the first day today. He will be completing that through next Tuesday. Lindsay Berner, our instructional coach at Kennedy, is going to be stepping in and being the summer school principal for the rest of the summer. And she's shadowed Damon, and then we'll be shadowing him for 2 days next week. But we wish Damon the best with that. And then for resignations, we have information only of April Herman, office assistant at Woodview Elementary School, and Christina Stolmacher, office assistant at Kennedy Elementary School.
All right, any comments or questions regarding what's presented? So we'll do the new hire by themselves. Do we need to do 2 resignations separately? Okay. All right, so first I would look for a motion to approve the hire of Mara Talbeck, 5th grade teacher, John Long Middle School.
Second.
First, second, additional discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that passes. We welcome Mara to the district. And then resignations, we have 4. Joseph Birch, art teacher, Woodview. Molly Bertrop, second grade teacher, Woodview. Jack Lilliquist, math teacher, John Long. And Damon James, associate principal, John Long. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Any additional discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that passes as well. And we thank everyone, including Damon, that's here tonight, the best going forward, and thank you for your time here. All right. Item F, summer teaching contracts advance approval.
So, so it's Damon's last meeting with us tonight. It's also Jill Schwenson's last meeting, after serving for 5 years with us as well. So we wish both of them the best. She's not on our personnel report. She was on it last month, but we'll at least recognize Jill and thank her for her 5 years of service and wish her well as she moves on as well. Summer teaching contracts, with the summertime and us having a 1 meeting a month, trying to hire staff in between one board meeting to the next is a difficult time, because if you're under contract for someone else, you aren't going to resign from your current job until you have an official contract in place. And so for the last number of years, we've asked the board for approval to allow advance approval of teacher contracts between now and the next board meeting, and then between the July and August meeting, and after, or if we have something after the August board meeting, that we would ask for the ability to sign them to a contract, that they are under contract to us. We would still bring those people to the board for full approval at the next board meeting, but allows us to have someone who maybe is under contract or someone who's waiting for a contract to say yes, and then begin immediately planning to be with us, whether that's with LBC, whatever that may be for planning purposes, but also it gives, if they're with another district, that district an opportunity to hire for themselves as well. So we would ask for board approval to advance approve teacher contracts between our next board meetings through the August one.
Any comments and questions? Same request that's come the last previous
Yes.
years to give us the flexibility to be act a little bit quicker. Good. Seeing none, I would look for a motion to approve the advance approval of teacher contracts in between board meetings. We have a motion.
So moved.
For a second, additional discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that passes. Item G, fund balance designation. Topher.
Yes, a couple things tonight. First off, being a recommendation from administration to designate a portion of fund balance for a future transfer to Fund 46. This would be similar to 2 years ago, pretty much the same as 2 years ago, where at the end of 2023-24, instead of making that transfer to 46, we delayed it into 2024-25, doubling up that committed fund balance and the budgeted transfer from the 24-25 budget, along with some debt defeasance, to essentially get as close to the secondary cost ceiling as possible, maximizing our state aid and keeping the pressure on property taxes as low as possible. So we're looking to do the same thing, how that would work with this cycle. Tonight, we would be committing the budgeted transfer to 46 to committed fund balance for a future transfer, namely next year, 2026-27, to be doubled up with that budgeted amount, with 2026-27, for a total transfer to 46 next year, $938,000. That, along with what is likely to be a defeasance next June, we would then be increasing our shared cost to get up as close as possible to that secondary cost ceiling to maximize our state aid for 2027-28, which would again help minimize pressure on property taxes for the Fund 10 levy. So looking to get that approved tonight. Any questions?
Okay. Same strategy that we've used in the past as well.
Yes.
Okay, seeing no questions, I would look for a motion to approve committing $469,000 $50 to fund balance for a transfer to Fund 46 in the 26-27 fiscal year.
Second.
Second, additional discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, and that passes. Item H, 26-27 preliminary budget approval. Mr. Adams again.
Yes, administration is pleased to bring a balanced budget proposal for use starting July 1st. We've been working on this since February, back in February, where we reviewed at finance and school board meeting revenue projections. Then in March and April, working on finalizing personnel needs and personnel costs. And then bringing in May at finance in particular, bringing that all together with expenditures and revenues for a preliminary budget presentation, discussion. And so we bring that here tonight for approval for use July 1st. So your memo outlines a number of these assumptions used in our revenue projections, which I'll go through on the following slides. That revenue limit piece is the majority of our funds in Fund 10. It limits the amount of revenue we can raise between state aid and property taxes. It's basically calculated taking our 3-year membership average, multiplying that by the maximum amount of revenue we can raise per kid. So our membership is, 3-year membership average is going up for the 5th year in a row after seeing a number of years of declining enrollment. Certainly the single family housing developments that are occurring in the village, as well as some of the town, have been helping our enrollment increase. In addition to increasing membership, the per member amount is going up $325 again. So both years in this biennium as well as the previous biennium included a $325 increase per student. I will point out that $325 per kid basically increases the budget compared to last year by 2.3%, lagging inflation. So certainly that amount, not keeping up with inflation, could also go away. In next biennium, we don't know who the governor will be. We don't know who leaders of the legislature will be. So that could go away. Again, being an amount that doesn't keep up with inflation, which is why there have been so many operating referendums around the state and increasingly in our area. And so when we take a look at revenue limits in our area, we're, not surprisingly, in orange, $12,207 per student. You take a look at the most districts having that gray portion of their revenue limit per member, though that's made up of the operating referendum that's over and above their revenue limit amount in their revenue limit calculation. What I have marked on each of the bars is the amount of money that we would have additionally if we were using that revenue limit per member. So for example, that first district with an operating referendum at $14,304 per kid, we would have $4.4 million more dollars if we were allowed to spend as much money as they spend per kid. And obviously you can see dollar amounts, ranging from 1.7 all the way to 17.6 million more dollars. Again, our Fund 10 budget this year, about 31 million. So certainly those are significantly larger dollar amounts that neighboring districts have to spend per student. So that being said, what we have is the 12,207. Again, that portion, the increase per member, providing about $687,000 in additional revenue compared to last year's revenue limit. The other piece that does help out our revenue limit is the increase in membership, as I mentioned earlier. So 42 additional students does result in about $500,000 of revenue. That certainly helps pay for staffing and programming for those additional students. Another piece that we look at is open enrollment net revenue. So certainly we have expenditures going out for open enrollment out, revenues coming in for open enrollment in.
we have more kids that open enroll in than go out. So we kind of look at it, what's the net revenue? Basically, our open enrollment out stays pretty steady. But the open enrollment in, we are limiting. So we have been reducing the number of open seats. So we anticipate because of that, that net revenue from open enrollment would go down. But we're doing that on purpose to essentially prioritize our resident enrollees to make sure they have the seats, and that we aren't creating additional classrooms that we have to fund through open enrollment. So, again, by design. Another piece that we've talked about for a few years now is the fact that we have to transfer a significant amount of funds from Fund 10 to cover the shortfall of our special ed costs that aren't covered by state special education aid as well as federal funds. So recently, or I should say in this next year of the biennium, we're supposed to get 45% reimbursement for eligible costs. We find out now that it's really only going to cover 40%. Because of that, it puts pressure and increases that transfer from Fund 10, so it reduces the amount of money that could be available to help all students. And so there was recently a state surplus deal that actually addressed that. Next year, it would have been a 50% reimbursement rate that would have provided $400,000 to $450,000 additional dollars in special ed that could have helped provide resources to all students. It also would have unfroze property tax relief and equalization aid increases. In many districts across the state this past year increased their property taxes pretty significantly because basically the property tax relief was frozen. This would have unfrozen it for next year, and people were pretty happy about it, pleased that both sides of the aisle could come together, cooperate to come up with a compromise. But unfortunately, we did end up getting disappointed as it didn't end up passing the Senate. So that is not on the table right now. There are calls to bring people back. So far, no bites. So this is what we have, roughly $31 million in revenue, 4.1% increase from the prior year. That matches our expenditure budget, also $31 million, a 4.1% increase from the prior year. Some of those pieces, primarily salaries and benefits. And this chart really really downplays the amount that goes to personnel. The purple pie transfers out was primarily made up of the transfer to Fund 27, $3.5 million. Special ed costs are well over 80% personnel. So that piece of the pie is primarily personnel. And even the purchase services goes heavily to outsource services that are personnel heavy, like transportation and cleaning, as well as open enroll out to other districts to educate students. So very heavy for personnel. And some of the assumptions we're using those top four are all about personnel, more staff, increased wages and salaries, benefit costs going up, and some of those other assumptions that we have in this budget. But overall, a balanced budget. And so what does this mean moving forward? This would mean that if everything played out as budgeted, both this year and in next year's budget, we would end the year with a $6.3 million fund balance. You can sort of see the earlier action taken reflected in the ending fund balance for 25-26. That green section, that's the committed fund balance, $470 million. That's set aside to go into Fund 46, which by the end of next year would have gone. And you'll notice that the fund balance ratio, despite the fact that fund balance has, essentially for 4 years is remaining unchanged, The ratio does go down since that is measured against our expenditures, which, as you saw earlier, is going up from year to year. So this year's budget is in good shape. It is balanced. There are budget issues to consider moving forward with the $325 that could go away, and the fact that that does not keep up with inflation, especially with recent spikes in recent months. State special ed aid, again, still concerned about the fact that that funding is lagging behind what had been expected. And then, again, the equalization aid, freezing property tax relief. These are a couple charts I showed last fall, showing that the freeze essentially was reducing what we would have typically gotten in terms of equalization aid by about $800,000. So again, that's why you saw, as I mentioned earlier, districts across the state increasing their school property taxes fairly significantly. We were able to protect property taxes payers in Grafton. We could do that for one more year, even with a freeze that is in place going into next fiscal year. We can protect property taxpayers from seeing a significant increase in their school portion of the property tax bill. But if another biennium were to include a continued freeze on property tax relief, we would be challenged in protecting the taxpayers. So next steps tonight, approving the preliminary budget for use July 1st. Then in July, we'll get our first equalization aid estimate from the state. Throughout the summer, we'll continue to onboard new hires, make budget adjustments. Then in September, we would have our budget hearing and the annual meeting. Finally, in October, we would get final budget data from the state, and we'd be able to have the board finalize and approve the budget and certify the levy. Any questions?
Comments or questions?
No questions, but I'm glad you touched on salaries and benefits. When I looked at the 26-27 budget, the increase in expenses, primarily the increase is salaries and benefits. That's where the increase lies. There were some other things, but that's where the major part of the increase lies, is salaries and benefits.
Anything else? Certainly good news at this point for next year with some things to deal with in the future, so. Okay. No other questions? I would look for a motion to approve the 26-27 preliminary balanced budget.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that passes. So thank you very much. WIA membership renewal.
Yes, we would ask for board approval for our annual renew of our membership in the WIA, which is the organization that runs our boys and girls athletic programs. That's all I got.
Just succinct,
If
powerful.
you don't say yes, then we have a problem. We've been in sports for 4 years.
All right, any comments, questions? All right, seeing none, I would look for a motion to approve the WIA membership renewal as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that passes. J, SWSA membership renewal.
I have more to say on this one. So district's membership in SWSA does enable school leaders and board members to remain informed about legislative actions that could significantly impact our district, as well as supports advocacy around reasonable legislation to support public education. And so attached is the resolution, the 66.0301 agreement, proposed annual budget for SWSA, and the participant listing of all the districts in southeastern Wisconsin that are involved in SWSA. So this has been a helpful organization to be a part of, but every year we come to the board for approval because it is an expenditure for us, but we believe that it's a good use of district dollars for the advocacy that occurs out of that for us.
Okay. Comments, questions? Terry is our representative for the SWSA. So, good. All right, I look for a motion to approve the SWSA agreement as presented.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that passes. Student overnight trip request.
Yes, we have 2 overnight trip requests that we'd ask for board approval for. One is for the Grafton High School girls basketball. There's an ultimate team camp, summer team camp at UW Stevens Point, and Matt D'Amato is the coach. You can see the chaperones that will be going along. They're male and female. They would depart on June 23rd at 9 a.m. and leave on June 25th. It's their first opportunity for that new group to be all together for competition, do a lot of things together, team building and playing some basketball at the same time. And they run their annual free throw-a-thon to help raise funds and offset the cost for the team camp. And then our second one is for the dance team, the UDA dance camp at Chula Vista in Wisconsin Dells. See the coaches that are supervising that for us, and the students that are going along. This is a dance camp tradition for many years, similar to what we talk about basketball, building team chemistry, learning routines, great opportunity for them to be together. And the girls are responsible, in this one, they are responsible for funding their way to summer camp for that.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on the 2 student overnight trip requests? All right, seeing none, I would look for a motion to approve as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that passes. All right, gift report.
Yes, so we're excited to announce that we have, with Kathy and Brock Hines' donation amount of $19,084 towards Phase 3, that reaches the $100,000 donation limit that we had to be able to name the soccer field Don Arnold Field. So we're excited to be able to commemorate that with Don. I spoke with Coach Arnold today, shared some dates that we have for the fall for our home games, and we're hopeful to be able to do it at that first home game, but he had to check his family schedule and get back to me whenever he can get back to me. And then we'll start publicizing that, but it'll be an opportunity for us to have a naming opportunity with Coach Arnold. His legacy is tremendous across the community for both boys and girls soccer. So appreciate, Kathy was one of the parents that met with us a couple of years ago, that sort of spearheaded, like, how can we get to this $100,000 donation, and her and her husband have had made this a final piece, a push for us, so we appreciate their donation towards that. And the other donations are all for our JLMS Robotics First Lego League Challenge. We have Port Washington State Bank, Tara Byer, in the amount of $1,000, a restricted gift for the robotics team. Ram Tool with Aaron Gundrum of $500 towards robotics. Order of the Eastern Sorrow Zaki chapter, Debbie Scholes is the contact person, in the amount of $1,000 for JLMS Robotics. Charter Steel with Donna Langham, a $1,000 monetary donation for JLMS Robotics. And the 106 group, Scott Nordstrom, a $500 donation towards JLMS Robotics. So we would ask for board approval for all of those donations.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? I'd echo the comments on Kathy. I mean, she's been great in helping drive and get to this point, so appreciate all that she has done. All right, with that, do we have a motion to accept the gift report as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes, and we will get out a letter of thank you to all of our donors. Next board meeting will be here on Monday, July 27th. That brings us to closed. The Board of Education will consider a motion to convene in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85, Section 1, Subsection C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility for purpose of considering performance, related data, and compensation of the superintendent. Do we have a motion going closed?
So moved.
Second.
We'll take a voice vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes, we are unclosed.